Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, and thank you for not going to happy hour, because I know we are clashing with happy hour somewhere. That's not your cue to leave, by the way. I'll be very offended. My name's Dal, and I am going to be largely interviewing this gentleman, who is Sean Pearce, the man, the legend behind Gousto. If you have a red box and you receive it and you love it, this is one of the gentlemen that's made the technology scale and given you the amazing experience that being a Gousto client is. So this is how we're going to run it. I'm going to be asking Sean a few questions, and we'll be opening it up to the audience very quickly. So if you've got any questions that you've got, please think about them, and we'll be opening up to you in about 10 minutes. So Sean, across to yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and tell us about Gousto for those of you who don't know who Gousto is. Shocker if you don't, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Dal. Is everyone familiar with Gousto? Does anyone not know it?
Who's not familiar with Gousto?
A few aren't. So the concept is really easy. You come to Gousto, website or the app, you pick from about 100 recipes each week that you might want to cook at home, and then we deliver a box to your door with fresh ingredients, exact proportions, and easy step-by-step recipe cards. So the idea is we take all the planning, all the supermarket shopping, all of the food waste out of the system, and we just leave you with the fun bit, which is the cooking. Recipe boxes are quite an established kind of offering in many markets these days. We're trying to kind of take the concept much further in terms of innovation. So recipe boxes are known for having relatively limited choice each week and normally quite long lead time. So anything up to 8 days between picking a box and then having your recipes delivered. We're doing things quite differently, so we want to offer thousands of recipes to customers to offer real meaningful choice to every family. So that means high levels of personalisation to make sure that customers can easily find what they're looking for. And then I'm not sure about your families, but my family definitely doesn't plan 8 days in advance. So we're at 3 days lead time, 1 day for sign-ups, and pretty soon we'll roll out 1 day, next day delivery for all, and then hopefully move into same-day delivery space eventually to really kind of capture that market. And yeah, from a Gousto perspective, all of that is done via data products and AI, so it's quite a complex supply chain challenge we've got there. So we use machine learning models and algorithms through the supply chain, through how we recommend recipes, which recipes we develop, how we fulfill them, how we deliver them, and things like that. So that's Gousto. I love cooking and I love food. So being the CTO at Gousto is, I think, my favorite job. The job I was born to do, I think. I wanted to be a chef. I don't think I've ever told you this. I lasted 1 week in a professional kitchen. For the whole week, I chopped parsley, bin bags of parsley, and at the end of the week, I decided that wasn't for me. So I looked at tech instead. I did 8 years in technology consulting, a couple of years at Amazon, and then joined Gousto in 2015. And then since then, I've been having a lot of fun and being very busy, kind of scaling Gousto. So we've gone from a tech team of 3 to about 300. When I joined, we were delivering about 800 boxes a week, which at the time was a lot. We're now peaking at about 250,000 a week. So there's been a really strong kind of growth that we've seen. So I've had not one job as CTO, but about 10, I think, as we've kind of scaled and the role and needs of a CTO kind of change.
Thank you very much. So I did not know that you had wanted to be a professional chef. He's very keen about coffee, by the way. Get this man talking about coffee. You will not leave the conversation. So Sean, 11 years that Gousto's been going. What did you say? You were, when you joined, 800 boxes and now 250,000 per week?
Yeah.
That's a significant amount of scaling. That's a significant amount of keeping your clients happy, Gousto customers happy, and ensure they're staying and spending more or increasing lifetime value. What are some of the challenges that you have seen over that time as you've witnessed the scaling of Gousto?
There's lots. I think that the things that come to mind when you say that is the biggest one is always like the way you work. So one of the things when I joined Gousto is we had a very small technology team, and we were kind of like we were a technical agency inside a business. So we weren't in the basement like normal, we were on the top floor, but it was very much kind of other areas of the business, marketing, operations, coming to us, asking for things, and then us trying to get them into a roadmap, kind of getting them delivered. And actually it was a bad way of working. So often there was like low empathy between teams. There was fairly low accountability. So when we did build something, if that thing didn't work, it didn't make the product better for customers, then maybe stakeholders weren't accountable. So we sort of mixed things up quite significantly in 2017, and we just changed the way the whole business operated. Rather than working functionally, we started working cross-functionally. So we formed these small squads those squads were truly cross-functional. So we had data scientists, software engineers, marketeers, growth experts, all sitting together with a really distinct and defined customer problem. So one goal, one metric, and they now work together. And that's been, I think, the most transformational thing in terms of we build the right products, we have real impact, much higher levels of accountability. And my team, software engineers, data scientists, they love it. They love sitting with marketing, they love understanding the challenges and really building the right thing.
That's really interesting. I'm going to go slightly off piece because one of the things that you obviously do for Bento, and you'll all think, who's Bento coming? We'll tell you, is we will often spend time with CTOs of businesses and CMOs of businesses, and they talk about the business. Now, I've been at Gousto Bento for 18 months. I've never heard the term the business. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Internally, we don't use it. It was something I noticed when I first joined Gousto. Is there was this talk I overheard my team saying, the business want this, or the business aren't happy that this is going to take that long. And I was like, who are the business? Like, aren't you the business? Are we the business? Who's the business? And I think it was just it was a sort of physical manifestation, I guess, of that mindset, which is technology sits here, and then the people that need the features and the technology sit there. And it creates that divide. And so that was the change we went through to try and get teams to literally physically go and sit with our marketing teams, sit with our growth teams. And now actually, when we stand up and we do presentations at Gousto, people say to me, I don't know whether that person is a software engineer or a marketeer. Yeah. And I think it goes to show how we've kind of joined people up to all kind of like think about the customer problem. So yeah, I don't hear that term anymore, which is nice.
No, I don't hear it. And it sounds basically the heart of this is it's a huge cultural shift. So as I sort of look in at Gousto, I'm not like in Gousto, this is just a way of working. They've literally internalized this, and this is part of the secret sauce behind the agility of the Gousto scaling. So who's Bento? And what's the story? Tell me about what Gousto had to do when you joined 8 years ago, and maybe that tells us a little bit more about who we are.
Who is Bento? Yeah, absolutely. So I started in 2015, and I think that the one thing we realized was the whole e-commerce space was a lot less mature then than it is now. So we didn't really have products to go and buy. We had to go and build a huge amount. So whether it was payments, a subscription engine, churn optimization, churn prediction, all of those things we couldn't buy off the shelf, we had to build. And I think if you fast forward to now and you look at this space, if you look at subscriptions, well, the whole market has really taken off. I can subscribe, as I do, to coffee. Ricardo and I just having a discussion about subscribing to toilet paper, which apparently you can do. I didn't know there was a need. But customers love the convenience of subscription. They love the discovery that you can get from a subscription product. But actually, the market hasn't moved on so much. And when we talk to other businesses that are running subscriptions, they still find it hard to purchase software that offers a subscription service which is truly flexible, like we've done at Gousto. So, it was a clear problem in the market space, and we like solving problems. So, to summarize, I think Bento is there to turn what should be commodity into commodity. So how can we take some of the things we've built at Gousto and package it up and then offer it to other businesses? And it's been a fun journey so far, and we're enjoying it.
Yeah. So for those of you who aren't familiar, Gousto is a subscription-first business. And if you think about where subscriptions have come from, traditional subscriptions, subscribe and save, you've just said it, toilet roll, coffee, I'd like to buy a product, 4x price on repeat, and that's very simple. Gousto, inherently the problem you are solving for, is if you think about a recipe box, our customer lifetime value at Gousto goes up by the very fact that what goes in the box changes week on week. Gousto customers will not stay around if what is in the box is identical every single week. They will tire very soon of the recipes. So you essentially had to build a subscription platform that actually did the total opposite to subscribe and save. If you are a Gousto customer, you subscribe to the notion that you are going to get recipes. You then either select the recipes. If you don't, the recommender will select them for you, right? Because that's the data power that's working behind it. And then what goes in the box is almost secondary to the fact that you have become a subscriber. So it's decoupled this notion of SKU-based subscriptions. So it allows for really basically, without even realizing what you were building this deeply complex subscription engine that can handle that complexity because you had to, effectively, right?
Yeah, that's it. I think we've used that term box-first subscription. So essentially a customer is subscribing to a Gousto box. They're not subscribing to specific recipes. And what customers love is coming back and choosing. That's one of the best bits about Gousto. So that just didn't exist. We needed to build it. And really, I was talking earlier about how we've brought the organization together. By doing that, we've just learned a huge amount about how to scale subscriptions, how customers think about subscriptions, what works, what doesn't. And so Bento is really trying to kind of codify, it's not just the software, it's everything we've learned about running a subscription business and tried to put that into a software package that people can buy.
Yeah, and what are your observations? And I'm going to open to the audience after this question, so if you've got any questions, if you don't, I'll very happily carry on speaking. I don't have a problem doing that, neither does Sean. So as you sort of look at subscriptions, I've just lost my chain of thought, actually. I was going to go with, I'm going to open to the audience, actually. My literal question has just gone. There's somebody coming for the mic. There's too much going on around. This is my problem. I'm distracted by everything behind you. Oh, no, you're not working.
Can you? Is that working? Working?
Yeah.
We're in.
Yeah.
Speak
Okay.
up. Yeah, there we go.
Dal, Sean, you obviously went from a limited amount of product SKU choices to an expansive amount of choices. And how do you deal with the tyranny of choice in terms of people navigating? Obviously, you're going to make suggestions that's data informed. But the split between that and people choosing, and is there somewhere in between that you've developed? I'm new to Gousto, so I'm sure if I looked at the site I'd see it, but this question.
Yeah, so I mean, it's one of the things we talk about the most at Gousto is customers want choice, but we talk about this concept of meaningful choice. And meaningful choice is not 1,000 recipes in a row that I have to kind of scroll through every week. So, my choice is different to Dal's choice. It would be different to yours depending on your family needs. So that's kind of the problem we're trying to solve. About 10% of our customers don't choose. They actually love the surprise. So every week we choose for them and we send them a Gousto box and they keep coming back week on week to do that. But most people do want to choose. So this is where we're investing in like data and AI. The recommendation engine is something we started to build back in 2017. And we've been slowly kind of evolving that to really understand customer need. And it's partly driven from explicit instructions from the customer, like I do not like mushrooms, I do like this. But most of it is actually from feedback from what they've bought before and what customers like them have bought before. So at this stage now, around 70% of recipes that we sell come from the top 10 lists that we recommend. So we've got quite confident that we're able to kind of look at historic buying behavior and kind of really inform what a customer might want. So yeah, it's one of the most fun things we do is kind of trying to guess what people want for dinner.
So that gentleman there, and then we'll come to you.
Hi there, Tim Flagg. Really interesting to hear about all the data you have on the customers. How do you flow that back into your customer acquisition to be able to use some of that to really do prospecting well?
So there's a few things we do. I mean, what we found at Gousto is you build these data products and they do start as kind of islands and they're there to solve a particular problem. So recommendations is one. Where you really get the benefit, I think, is when you start to connect and join these things up. So if we look at the marketing space, for example, just understanding what customers want next week, integrating that into our CRM platform so that we can completely customize the emails we're sending customers is one thing. And we A/B test these things all the time, and as soon as you start showing customers their recommended recipes, the click-through rates kind of go up. So that's one example. The other things are in things like churn prediction and discount optimization and other things like that as well. So getting a Gousto box wrong for a customer is a really bad thing in a way that I don't think it is if I'm buying trainers. So if we get your package wrong, it's not like your trainers haven't turned up, it's your dinner, right? And it ruins dinner time, which is not good. So building a lot of our data products and building automation into some of our customer care tooling is a really good example there as well. If something goes wrong, a customer needs to be able to contact us quickly, we need to be able to compensate them quickly. So understanding what kind of discounts we should be offering, making sure that drives a good experience for a customer and ultimately drives retention is another example of where we're sort of using data to test and learn and kind of improve the experience for customers. Yeah, sure, yeah.
Sorry, are you using AI within that, any generative AI to be able to predict some of the things that you should be saying in those emails or in programmatic or social media?
Yeah, so Gen AI, obviously Gen AI has really taken off in the media kind of this year, but some of our teams and recommendations we're using kind of transformers as a base level of using kind of neural networks, and then generative techniques to drive recommendations. We started that back in 2020, and we've been evolving that since. We released the first version of that sort of transformer-based model out into testing at the end of last year, and we saw a really big step up. So we're finding it's just like Gen AI ultimately is predicting next best word within a large language model. it can work exactly the same with next best recipe once we've got a big enough pool of data. So yeah, we take elements of Gen AI and the elements of what builds up a service like ChatGPT, and then we start to apply those into other areas of the business. Recipes has been really successful. Yeah.
Hi, Sean. Hi, Dal. You obviously are in a very competitive segment, and there are a lot of subscription businesses out there as well. Can you share with us some of the magic or like best practices behind building up a successful subscription business?
You take this from Gousto, and I'll take it from some of the companies we've spoken to.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, so I think it's really basic, right? I think you just got to listen to customers, and I think the thing that we did quite early on is establish a good data layer, good data engineering that allows us to do a lot of testing. And ultimately, I think like testing is the way that you really listen to customers, you understand what works. So whether it's in the product space and understanding which recipes to offer, or whether it's in CRM and other ways of contacting customers, nearly everything we do, we test. And I think that just really helps us to learn very quickly, like very tight iteration cycles, and it just allows us to kind of get the product right. If you don't do that, we've seen before that you invest in the wrong area, you waste time. So it's all about, I think, speed of the proposition and taking it forward as quickly as possible and just testing and testing and testing.
I'd also say that I think there's some great reports that are coming out that specifically are researching the subscription space. I'd urge you to go read them. One thing I'd say is subscription is very different to e-commerce. One-off buying is very, very different to subscription, and the two need to be pulled apart. So I think with subscriptions, make it very easy for customers to onboard, but make it equally easy for them to pause or cancel. Subscriptions are staying. There's some very interesting data on the younger generations, how they're using subscriptions, and they are going to move, and they are going to try different products, but they will come back if you make it easy. So listen to your customer, building a testing approach, A/B test your proposition. Don't be afraid to test things and then reiterate. Put agility into your technology platform, and I think if you just think about all of those things, understand subscription behaviors are different, listen to your customers, don't be afraid to test, make it easy for them to leave, make it easy for them to come back, and basically have a great product. And really think, especially if you're in the physical subscription space, you can have the best UI, you can have the best CX, right? You can have the best experience for them, but if their physical goods aren't showing up on time in full, one phrase you hear in Gousto all the time, and when I joined, my background is not supply chain, was OTIF, on time in full. Gousto lives and breathes this principle. So that is all they are obsessed about. Has the order reached the customer when they expect it, on time, in full, minus damages? That is a good experience for our customer, and that's what I think Gousto cares about lots. Sorry, we got another question.
Yeah, hi. So you said you started at 2015. Now, how long did it take for you to build the prediction model, prediction engine? And did you have a base from which you started, or was it from scratch? The second question is, did you have to use first-party data, or did you have to combine it with third-party data?
Yeah, so we started to build the first iteration of recommendation engine in 2017, and we set the team a goal, 6 months, and get something in front of customers that shows some uplift in conversion. And it was built from scratch, and we got there. So I think it goes to show, I think with everything, it goes back to this test and learn approach, is you don't need to build incredibly complex models with incredibly complex data sets to start to understand and predict. And so I think getting the testing infrastructure right so you can start to really measure those very small changes at first and understand when you're onto something, I think is really important. So we started from scratch. I think now the recommendation engine we're running now is probably the 4th or 5th generation where we've taken different techniques, applied them, they've got them so far, and you kind of iterate, stop, rethink, and then carry on. So we've been on this journey for the last 6 years, but it was 6 months before we started to see the first results. Yeah. Yeah, so for us, it's all first-party data. So yeah, we're purely using what customers come to us and they signal to us either explicitly through taste profiles and other things like that, and then implicitly through buying behavior, recipe ratings and things. Yeah.
Great question. And the thing is, when you are in a subscription business, you will be capturing a lot of data from the customers because they're coming back to you. So they've given you a lot of information and you will be getting a lot of information. And the key is about using it. How do you use that data as in any way to enrich the journey? Do we have one? Yep.
Hiya.
Hello.
My name's Charlie. I work for a whiskey company where the business still exists very so much. And what I was wondering is, how did you sell in that operational transformation from the way you were working previously to, you know, more of a sort of agile, cross-functional model?
Yes, I think the key was seeing it through the eyes of my peers, and actually, you know, the model that we had, which was very insular, central tech, everyone coming in and trying to put things on roadmaps, we didn't like it and they didn't like it either. So actually you just needed to see it through their eyes and kind of explain the change, I think, through them. And one of the things that change has meant is actually I've relinquished a huge amount of control over what my team are doing. So I'm no longer the gatekeeper of roadmaps, nor am my team. Actually, it's my peers in marketing, it's my peers in operations. So there's really something there. I think what you do is you give your peers much more autonomy over what's being built, but also like that accountability loop kicks in. Are the things we're building actually making a difference? So every 6 months we measure that. We look at the technology estate. We use OKRs to predict value, and so we can really see like where are we investing and where are we getting that customer return, and then we continue to sort of invest in technology in those places. So I think for the rest of the business, they actually really like the change, but we had to describe that change through their eyes, I think, and that accountability and an autonomy loop being connected up for them was fantastic. Yeah.
It's a great question, and one of the things, we've got like 4 minutes, but one of the things we also see is that you can do really, really great things with data, and you can have a great data science function, and you can get loads of insights. The operationalization of it is super difficult. So when you get those insights and you're passing them into the marketing team, what are they doing on a reactivation campaign? What are the actual actions they're doing to prevent the churn? That muscle, actually, I mean, I think you take for granted how well practiced this is in Gousto, but it's like a machine that runs very well. But it takes a while, I think, to get running. I think we've got another question at the back.
Hello.
Hold it up.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Speak up.
So when it comes to kind of special diets, so at Gousto you're really good in comparison to your competitors in terms of things like gluten-free. Do you have any kind of plans digitally to adapt what you offer? So for example, I eat gluten-free myself. In areas of your website, there's plenty of recipes which would be gluten-free with the bits that you don't actually provide in the box, i.e. swapping out the flour. So it adds more kind of work for someone like myself who doesn't fancy one of the 15 recipes that are under the gluten-free tab. Is there kind of potential for that to grow, to obviously take the brain power out for those customers, which is something you do for everybody else?
Great question, and I feel your pain. My partner is gluten-free as well, so we also kind of have that same challenge. So yeah, so far the idea has been to sort of expand recipes as much as possible, so that regardless of your kind of dietary restrictions, there is still some choice, and 15 recipes a week is where we are at the moment. But absolutely, we want to get to the point where if a customer wants to, they can customize. So whether that's moving into organic meats, or whether it's replacing gluten with a gluten-free alternative, that's where we want to get to. One of the challenges, this is another place where we're looking at Gen AI as an opportunity, is the kind of proliferation of recipe instructions, recipe methods, recipe cards. And at the moment, we've got a team of around 15 chefs that are busy developing new recipes. But doing all of that work would really it create a huge amount. So what we're looking at Gen AI as a way of taking recipe cards, bringing in different alternative ingredients, and then looking at whether those methods can be rewritten and then just checked by the chefs rather than written. So it's a really good example of where I think we can use technology further to expand choice for customers.
We got time for one final question, or I'll ask. Here we go, gentleman in the back. Higher, lower, what's your bid? Are you a Gousto customer? Thumbs up. Oh yes. Do you rate Gousto? Oh yeah, we got another thumbs up. There we go.
Hello, how's that? Cool.
Perfect.
So my question is, I'm a Gousto customer. Split it with my girlfriend. I think I do more of the cooking. She thinks she does more. But when I'm, one of my concerns is that when I'm actually making a recipe, there's quite a lot of like single-use packaging. So how would you use data technology to address that? Is that something on your radar?
Definitely on our minds. Definitely something we're working on and have teams of people looking at. So we started to look at single-use packaging back in 2020, and we set ourselves a pledge to half the amount of single-use packaging in the boxes, which we did in 2020. There's still work to do, but one of our strategies is essentially to in-house as many ingredients as possible, so take control of the packaging. I think 2 years ago we removed a lot of the plastic insulation from boxes, and we have these essentially cardboard recyclable boxes to do that as well. So yeah, absolutely, it's something we track on a monthly basis. It's part of one of the metrics that we see as very important, is kind of driving some of that plastic down.
Thank you, everyone. Time flies when you're having fun. I've had a lot of fun. Thank you very much for your time and your attention and great questions. If you've got any questions re Gousto Bento, we're going to hang around a little while. Come and say hi. Don't be a stranger. Might even give you a Gousto discount code. We won't. But thank you, everyone.